Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another installment of Scott Selections here on April 1st. We're here with StatSalt.com. First of all, happy April Fool's Day, everybody. I know nobody celebrates it, but still, it's technically a holiday. Other than that, it was actually a good day for us yesterday on March 31st as we ended up skipping play of the day. However, our Twitter play did win as we took the Cubs team total over 4.5 against the Texas Rangers, and that won by about the sixth inning, give or take. The Cubs ended up scoring 10 runs, and they lost anyway. Something to keep in mind, though, that you have noticed, just in general, it's the beginning of the season, but it's not too early to pick up on trends in baseball. I think the Cubs are going to be an over team all year. That offense is extremely solid, but that bullpen is absolutely atrocious. They blew up multi-run leads multiple times in that game. Thank you, B-Phils. I appreciate it. I'm glad you were able to cash a winner with me yesterday with the Cubs team total there. In terms of our leans yesterday, in college basketball, we went 3-1. Although Kentucky lost, we recommended the over in that game, and we also recommended the Michigan State, and we recommended Michigan State +2. They won outright, and we recommended the under in that game as well, and that under cashed with ease. As for the actual MLB game leans yesterday, as I look back on the results from yesterday, we're right about the Cubs and the Rangers over in general. I know one of the commentators here decided to take over 12 and a half on that game, and they ended up cashing a huge plus in that game. Yeah, the Mariners are 6-0 to the over this year. I will be getting to that game in a bit, Brian Richmond, but that's definitely true. The Mariners, especially with that bullpen after Edwin Diaz got traded to the Mets, they don't have any bullpen stability whatsoever, and that offense is actually playing extremely well despite the absence of Nelson Cruz, who ended up signing with Minnesota during the offseason. How's it going, Romeo? Thanks for joining us. But just to continue, I don't want this video to take too long. We recommended the over in the Arizona Dodger game. It was about 7.5 with Buehler on the mound. That was an easy winner. That totaled 15. With the Yankees, that one I recommended the over on. I did recommend the Yankees run line, but I said there was no value on it because the Yankees shouldn't have been favored by that much. But we did recommend the over in that game. That ended up winning easily for the Tigers in Toronto. I don't really remember what we had in that game, if I'm being honest, because both teams were awful. Both teams are terrible. I don't think much is going to change. For Houston, I don't really know what's going on with them at this point in time. This offense has been awful. And props to the Rays. They won 3 out of 4 against Houston, which is definitely a step in the right direction for that team, as they came out of nowhere to almost make the playoffs last year before falling victim to the AL East being arguably the best division in all of baseball. The Astros, I'm sure they'll get it together at some point, but as of right now, that offense is not doing well. Might be the absence of Marwin Gonzalez. Altuve's played okay so far. Springer's had issues getting on base, but he's had a home run or two. I haven't heard anything from Correa. I wouldn't be surprised to see him getting it going in the upcoming few weeks. Moving on, Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. I believe we got that game right with Pittsburgh because of Trevor Williams. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure I recommended Trevor Williams on that one because I think he's a very underrated pitcher in today's game. With the Marlins and the Rockies, we did recommend a little bit on the Rockies, which didn't work out, but we did recommend the under because of Miami's inept offense. That game ended up at a 3-0 final. Moving on with the Mets and Nationals, we recommended the Nationals winning in order to avoid the sweep, and we recommended the over with Corbin's first game as a National going against Zach Wheeler. That also won. Moving on with the Indians and the Twins, we got that one wrong as we recommended Carrasco, and he got absolutely shelled, giving up 5 runs in the 5th inning. That one lost with the Brewers and the Cardinals. We recommended the over in that game, which ended up pushing. Moving on, we recommended the over in the White Sox game as well as the White Sox money line in order to avoid a sweep against the Royals, simply because the Royals aren't good enough to sweep any team in baseball. That ended up winning. Moving on with Oakland and the Angels, we recommended the A's getting it done in that game with, I believe Montas was on the mound. They ended up winning, only gave up 3 hits. Moving on with the Red Sox and the Mariners, we ended up losing on the Red Sox on our lean, but we also recommended the over, which ended up winning. And for the Giants and Padres game, we did say that you should take a small play on the Giants with Samardzija on the mound. Samardzija actually pitched really well, but the Giants' offense just can't score. They have scored 1 or fewer runs in 3 out of the 4 games they've played this season. And moving forward, I expect the Giants to be a heavy under team, as this team just can't generate any offense at all. With the exception of Posey and a little bit of Crawford, who struggled early on the season, maybe Joe Panic, and maybe Brandon Belt. This team has no talent on the offensive side. I know Longoria is still there, but he's well past his prime. Props to the Padres, though. I think this Padres team could be a potential sleeper against the Dodgers to take home some large money lines in those type of situations. But overall, very solid day. And we also recommended the Phillies to sweep the Braves, who were relatively shorthanded, as the Phillies and Arrieta played extremely well. Harper hit another absolute bomb on ESPN for a second home run of the season, and the Phillies definitely look poised to potentially win the NL East. But that will take us to our play of the day, which we will be doing before Orleans. And our play of the day is going to be another team total in this game. We are going to be taking the Red Sox team total over 4.5 in the full game, which is currently available at plus 105 at 5 dimes. Now, the main reason why we like this is due to the pitching for the Oakland A's. First of all, this game is going to be in Oakland. Boston is 1-3, where Oakland is 3-3, where David Price will be pitching against Aaron Brooks. Aaron Brooks, not the former point guard from the Houston Rockets, former pitcher for the Brewers and the A's. His career ERA is currently 8.01, I should say. And the Red Sox batters, although the sample size is extremely small, you have players like Brock Holt and Xander Bogaerts and Mookie Betts, and even Pedroia. Pedroia is injured. But the career batting average of those 4 players against Aaron Brooks is 833. The entire team that has faced Aaron Brooks in his career, their batting average is 833. That's insane. Aaron Brooks, I don't know why he's in the majors. How's it going, Big X? Thanks for joining us. I don't know why Aaron Brooks is in the majors. I don't know why he's pitching in this game. The Red Sox, even though they're 1-3, they have scored 4 or more runs in each of their 4 games to start the season, including over 4 in their last 3 games. This team total, I think, is way too small. Hey, McCarra, nice to see you. Overall, Aaron Brooks, I expect him to get shelled in this game. The Red Sox are definitely going to be angry after losing 3 out of 4 to the to the Mariners, I should say. And the Red Sox offense has played well. It's their bullpen that has absolutely blown games for them. I expect the Red Sox to score at least 5 to 6 runs in this game by themselves. In terms of the full game over, I'd lean to the over in this game, but it wouldn't surprise me if Price pitches well after the stellar outings he had towards the end of last season. Quickly for some trends, support the over in this game. The Red Sox are 4-0 in their last 4 road games. They're 4-0 in their last 4 versus the AL West, and the over is 25-2. That's 25-2 in the Red Sox last 27 games following a loss. One thing to also factor in when you're betting totals in the MLB. Thanks, Jorge. Oh, good morning to you too. One thing to keep in mind when you're betting totals in this game is to keep in mind about the wind. Wind plays a crucial factor with determining over and unders because it's about those couple of extra feet, which could separate a fly out to the warning track to a potential 3-run home run. And the wind will be blowing out to right field at about 5 miles an hour. And the Red Sox have stacked up their lineup full of lefties to face Brooks, the right-handed pitcher. But this is mostly a fade on Aaron Brooks. I don't think he should be in the majors. Career record of 3-5 with an 8+ ERA. And the Red Sox offense is currently clicking on all cylinders. I would not be surprised to see the Red Sox score 5 or 6 runs in this game. Just a reminder, there will be another Twitter MLB play of the day, which we ended up winning yesterday on Cubs team total to bring a record to 3-1 overall. If you don't have my Twitter, I will post it again right now into the chat box. It seems like a decent amount of you have started following me, which is a good sign as we look to provide you with more content in the future on Twitter as well as this YouTube channel. Big X, it's actually funny you mentioned that because of the fact that I'm uploading so early today just to cover the Cardinals and Pirates game. Not because I'm personally having any money on it, but I did promise that I would be uploading videos earlier in order to cover all of the potential baseball games. And considering the fact that the Cardinals and the Pirates game is starting at 1 o'clock Eastern time, which is in about 20 minutes, I made my video earlier just so I could cover it. I think that's a perfect transition for me to get into my MLB leans of the day. So in this game, you have the Cardinals versus the Pirates. Pirates are currently favored at -125. Money has come in on the Cardinals. In terms of this total, it's gone from 8 to 7.5. I don't get the move at all towards the under. Archer, he has very dynamic stuff, and he was known as a large trading, acquisition for the Pirates during the All-Star break, or right before the All-Star break, I should say, as the team looked to potentially get into the wild card race. Archer struggled mightily in Pittsburgh in his first season, and the wind's also going to be blowing out at 6 miles an hour. I love the over in this game. For me, 7.5 makes no sense. I think there's a lot of value on the over, and I think that Big X is right. I lean to the over in that game. Wainwright, I know that he has had a tremendous history with the Cardinals, won a couple of World Series rings, struck out Beltran in the 9th inning of that 7th game of the NLCS, but that was over 10 years ago, and Wainwright in recent years has struggled. He's had serious arm issues, and I don't trust him at all in the situation, especially against a Pirates lineup that has some weapons, mostly by Sterling Marte as well as Corey Dickerson. And Josh Bell's extremely underrated as a first baseman. I would not be surprised to see the Pirates generate at least 4 runs in this game. And Archer, he's got great stuff, but I don't trust him either. I know that he didn't get much run support in Tampa, but when your record was as bad as his was in his last full season with Tampa, some of that has to do with pitching. And I personally think that Archer will also struggle against the Cardinals. I would not be surprised to see Goldschmidt potentially taken deep in this game. Ozuna's playing. The lineups are confirmed. Ozuna's going to be playing. Molina's playing. Ozuna's playing. Carpenter's playing. Wong's playing. Fowler's playing. Cardinals got their full lineup in. I think that this total should be at 8 or 8.5 instead of 7.5. At 7.5, I'd have to end up taking the over between the Cardinals and the Pirates, which should be kicking off in about 20 minutes. Do I ever cap pitcher strikeouts? No, I typically don't. The only time I'll ever actually consider doing that is if I look at player props in terms of players getting a hit. If you want to know value in baseball, if you bet on players to get no hits, that usually comes out to roughly plus 150, plus 160 or higher. So if you ever do that, I recommend looking at the swing and miss ratio as opposed to strikeouts. Do I think it really matters? No. Some pitchers, it doesn't. Some pitchers, you like to bet on strikeouts because of the fact that means that batters will not be getting contact on the ball. But there's a lot of different types of contact. I'll take a fly ball out rather on the first pitch rather than a strikeout in 3 pitches because of the fact that the main thing, especially in today's baseball, is that managers are a lot more selective with the pitch counts of pitchers in order to prolong them and to potentially save their arms, as Tommy John has become a more common procedure in baseball in recent years. So I do think that strikeouts are definitely nice to have if you're backing a pitcher, but it also leads to bigger pitch counts because of the fact that you're constantly trying to get these swinging, you're trying to get batters to chase these pitches outside. I'm fine with contact personally. In terms of capping, I don't really care if they strike the people out. The only thing I care about is if they actually get the batters out. A fly out to the warning track is worth the same as a strikeout, so I personally don't cap it. But if you are interested in capping pitcher strikeouts, there are definitely strikeout player props that you are able to find on 5 Dimes as well as Bovada and other sites. So if you are interested in doing that, you can bet on those props individually. But as for me personally, I do not cap that. I mostly will cap ERAs at specific ballparks as well as opposing batting averages and on-base percentages versus given pitchers. But moving on, so I recommend the over in the Cardinals and Pirates game. Between the White Sox and the Indians, you have Nova versus Clevenger. I have to lean to the White Sox here at a plus 135 price. I think Cleveland might win the game, but Cleveland's been awful. They've been terrible. Their offense can't generate anything. And I'm pretty sure they haven't scored more than 3 runs in a game all season long in the first 3 games, and their one win came on a 2-run performance. This team just can't score. I know that Nova, former Yankee, hasn't been great. He was okay with the Pirates. He's about to be pitching for the White Sox in Cleveland. But overall, and I know the White Sox bullpen isn't great. In terms of plays, I'd have to recommend the under in the first 5 innings of this game. Both teams have suspect bullpen, so I'd stay away from the full game under. But in terms of this game, the wind's blowing in at about 4 miles an hour. I'd recommend the under in the first 5 innings of that White Sox-Indians game. How's it going, Thomas? Thanks for joining us. Nice to see you again. It's nice to always see the regulars show up in the chat, try to interact with me. Message any of the people that are in. Ask any questions you want. I'll gladly answer, and more than happy to help. Moving on, you have the Yankees versus the Tigers with Jermaine and Tyson Ross on the mound. I have to recommend the over in this game. Jermaine, he has good stuff, but he struggled with his command last season with the Yankees. And Tyson Ross, former Padres pitcher, if the name sounds familiar, he's not that great either. I know that the Tigers don't have a great lineup. And I know that Giancarlo Stanton is now officially on the DL for the Yankees. Stanton wasn't doing much early on with the Yankees anyway. In the beginning of the season, you still have to deal with the likes of Judge and Luke Voigt and all these other people. And I think that the over 8.5 does make a lot of sense in this game. Moving on between the Brewers and the Cincinnati Reds, I recommend the over in this game with Zach Davies and Tanner Roark on the mound. I would recommend the Brewers winning the game, but I don't trust Zach Davies at all on the mound. I think this game will generate a lot of runs, especially with the way that the Brewers and the way that Yelich has been playing with 4 home runs in the team's first 4 games. How's it going, Virgin? Nice to see you again. I'd recommend the over 8.5. I don't like Roark. I don't like Davies. I don't like the Reds bullpen either. I'd recommend the over 8.5 in that game. And moving on, you have Baltimore versus Toronto, the over-under 9. In terms of value, I'd have to lean towards the Orioles on the money line at roughly plus 160. The Orioles took 2 out of 3 from the Yankees. Are they a good team? No. Toronto split their 4-game series against Detroit. Is Toronto a good team either? No. Mostly just for value. There's no way that Sean Reed Foley should be a minus 182 favorite, and that's absurd to me. Hess hasn't been amazing since he's come up to the pros from AAA ball, but he has been somewhat serviceable, and I think that the Orioles have some value on the money line here, but I'd also look into the under as both teams have very pedestrian lineups. I can see that game being 4-3 somewhere along those lines. Moving on, plus 100 there. I recommend that value, Thomas. I think there's a lot of value on the 7.5. Moving on, the next game we're going to be looking at is going to be on the Colorado Rockies and the Tampa Bay Rays. The over-under is currently at roughly 8 or 8.5, depending on where you shop at. I'll try to find the best line for that right now. In that Rockies game, it's actually 8.5 across the board. It was at 7.5, now at 8.5. Battle between Bettis and Stanek. In terms of who I like in this game, a lot of money's coming on Tampa. I actually agree with the money. Colorado split a 4-game series against the Marlins. They're not looking that great. Plus their acquisition, Daniel Murphy, broke a finger. He's officially on the injured list. He will not be playing. Still mentally trying to adjust to it being called the injury list instead of the disabled list. Either or, it's the same thing. Tampa ended up winning 3-4 against the Astros. Very impressive. This team was fantastic at Tropicana last season, and I think that Tampa will get the job done in this one. And I will also lean to the under in this game. Money's coming on the over. I don't really get it. Rockies, without Murphy, their lineup significantly is going to be worse. Plus, Tampa still has a great bullpen. I trust Cash as the manager to do enough to limit the amount of production from the Rockies and Arenado. Moving on, Big X, I mentioned it before. If you scroll up in the chat box, it says my Twitter username right there. So you can just add me there if you want to. Same message to anybody who's listening in the chat. Moving on, Mets and Marlins. Either or, I'm impressed with the resiliency of the Mets, and it seems like they're actually generating runs for the first time in a long time. And Caleb Smith, I don't trust, but in the Marlins park, I don't see the Marlins scoring runs. I think Mets will play well. I recommend the Mets on the full game money line as well as the under in this game, but I'm more of a lean towards the Mets money line. Moving on, you have the Cubs and the Braves over under 8. Battle between Hendricks and Sean Newcomb. Newcomb was tremendous last season. Struggled a little bit down the stretch, but he was solid. Where Kyle Hendricks has been relatively solid since coming over. The Astros are favorites of minus 172. You have Peacock versus Smiley. I have to lean Houston, but honestly, I don't really trust this team until Correa starts hitting. I think that they are not playing well at this current point in time. They are 1-3, and they're 0-4 to the under. But the Rangers are 3-0 to the over, as all 3 of those games against the Cubs, they ended up winning 2 out of 3, but they generated a lot of runs. Lean to the over, 9.5. Games in Texas, winds blowing out. I expect Smiley to – if there's going to be a game where Houston can hit out of their funk, it would be against Drew Smiley. I thought it would be against Glasnow, but that didn't happen. Peacock's actually done pretty well in Rangers ballpark, but I don't trust Houston's bullpen either, and I expect this game to get over 9.5. Moving on, you have the Red Sox versus the A's. We already recommended the team total as our play of the day for the Red Sox at 4.5 for the full game at plus 105 on 5 dimes, as the Red Sox are also 4-0 to the over. But I'd lean to the Red Sox in that game at minus 140. I don't trust Aaron Brooks at all. Moving on, you have the Angels and the Mariners over or under 9. I'd lean to the over in this game between teams. Stratton, former Giants pitcher, now with the A's. He's a crafty lefty. He's a crafty righty, I should say, but his stuff isn't very dynamic. And the Mariners are currently 5-1 to the over. Although the Angels are 0-4 to the under. Felix Hernandez, all-time great pitcher, future Hall of Famer, Cy Young winner, but he has not been the same in recent years. He's definitely past his prime, and his stuff is not significantly as dominant as it used to be. I would not be surprised to see the Angels generate some runs in this game. I think the Mariners will continue to generate runs at their home park, and I think this game will get over the 9. Moving on, you have Arizona versus San Diego. Over-under at 7.5. Padres are currently a -161 favorite. You have a battle between Strahm and Kelly, both pitchers not really that familiar with. The Diamondbacks are 4-0 to the over, where the Padres are 0-4 to the under. I would lean towards the Diamondbacks for value purposes at roughly +140. Padres looked extremely solid against the Giants because of the fact that they were playing the Giants. Padres haven't hit that well so far, but the pitching's been pretty good. But they're relying on a very young staff, and it could be very volatile. Diamondbacks generated a lot of runs against very quality pitching, very solid pitching from the Dodgers. I would lean to the over 7.5, and I would lean to the Diamondbacks winning that game outright. And moving on, you have the Giants versus the Dodgers. Giants are 4-0 to the over. Dodgers are 4-0 to the over. Giants are 0-4 to the under. Dodgers are currently a -210 favorite. Pomerantz versus Urias. I would take the Dodgers on the money line in this game. Pomerantz has been awful in recent years, struggled with the Red Sox. Now he's trying to move over to the Giants. The issue of being a ground ball pitcher is that you actually have to force ground balls. And Pomerantz's home run rate has gone up in recent years. Dodgers have won 3 out of 4 against the Diamondbacks. They've been very close games, but the Giants have no bullpen, and I don't trust Pomerantz. I'd look into a potential team total for the Dodgers as well as the Dodgers -1.5. Morning, Terry. You actually caught us right when I was about to close out on the show. Just a reminder, everybody, to like and subscribe on the channel, as we'll be continuing to provide you with daily betting content. And that is going to do it for this installment of Scott Selections for April Fool's Day on April 1st. Just a reminder, the pick of the day is going to be on the Red Sox team total over 4.5 at +105 on 5 dimes. Have a good day, everybody. Good luck to you and your bets, as we hope that you start your week off right this Monday. Have a good day, everybody.